So Hippler says, he addresses Kim Kernodle and says, in the legal sense of the word, you do not qualify as victim for purposes of Victims' Rights Act. I believe she was the aunt. I am willing to allow you to be here today because what I say may be important to you and the broader Kernodle family. I want everybody on the call to understand that this is a sealed hearing. What is talked about in here by me or anyone else on the call is not for public redistribution. Period. End of story. If there is anyone who has a problem with that, now is the time to let me know. And nobody responds. And so Hippler says, as some of you have heard, and I discussed with counsel last week in a sealed proceeding, the fact that in a recent television news magazine reported some items that have not been a part of the public discourse, public discussion prior to that. There is concern about ongoing publicity related to not just that interview, but other ones that apparently are coming forward, including a book as well as another, quote, documentary, quotes around the word documentary, because I'm not sure how they have a documentary without knowing the facts actually, what the facts actually are at this point, but nonetheless, I understand those are forthcoming. I want to stress for folks the ability to conduct this trial at the time that we have it scheduled for and potentially at all is jeopardized every time you talk to the media, every time you republish statements or evidence that was never supposed to be in the public sphere in the first place. What I am telling you now is it needs to stop. And the judge says, I am not entering an order apart from what has already been ordered in this case with respect to non-dissemination. But I am telling you, as you know, there is already a motion to continue the trial pending. The more you talk, and at this point continue talking at all to the media, it jeopardizes that trial date. It jeopardizes my ability to seat a jury. At some point, if I can't seat a jury, I don't know what happens then. My guess is that you are probably not going to be happy with it. If you are truly interested in seeking to have a trial in the pursuit of justice, your desire or willingness to talk needs to take a back seat. And then he addresses Kaylee's father, Steve, directly. And he says, you in particular have a history of speaking to the media, and I understand as a father your reasons. I am asking you to set that desire aside so we can get to a trial in this case. And Steve says, I don't know if I agree with that. And the judge says, well, I am just telling you what the facts are, whether you agree with them or not. And Steve says, the facts are we don't have to have this gag order. That's the facts. We do not have to have a gag order. I think it's disgusting that we are even saying the word gag when some of the victims were gagged. No, they weren't, by the way. No, they weren't. I think it's disgusting that we are asked to hide what happened to our children. I don't agree with it. And the judge says, I don't care if you agree with it or not, sir. I also don't have to have a trial if I can't seat a jury. Hold on. And Steve says, I understand you have a job to do, and so do I as a parent. These are my children. I care what happened to them. And the judge says, you're talking right now is not going to bring your child back, and it potentially endangers the ability to hold the person you have indicated that you believe is accountable to account for this. And Steve says, I don't disagree there. And Hippler says, I am telling you what the ramifications are for continuing that. That is what I wanted to share. That's what I wanted you to be aware of. I will enforce the non-dissemination order for any violations, and I will enforce them with vigor. And Shannon Gray says, I know that you have set deadlines for the disclosure of any person that had information related to that information that was released to Dateline. Have the defense and prosecution provided that information to the court? And is there going to be a special prosecutor that is going to be assigned to that? Because when I was in contact with the family, we were just as surprised about the information that came out on Dateline as everyone else was. It was not the G family that was involved in any of these disclosures. Now, I'm just going to say, I find this very strange that he's just like, for the record, just in case, we had nothing to do with it. Like, out of nowhere, he's like, okay, but we have nothing to do with this. I mean, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that does nothing to convince me that it wasn't Steve didn't leak some of that information at Dateline. That's very, very interesting to me. And I can remember when Steve was doing an interview after he changed his plea. He said something about Hippler saying to him, "Well, I don't care like what you want. I don't care how you feel or something." And I knew he was taking it out of context, and I knew it had to be regarding the leaks to Dateline. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Nothing's. I mean, that just sounded. Steve, I don't know. Their lawyer just sounds guilty. Sorry, not sorry. Hey, Jenny. Okay, just so that we know, like I get that people like to talk about those lives and everything. And I brought it up, but I don't want them like dominating my lives or the comments in my lives. I'm going to post this on my page, Jenny. What I just read was a transcript. It was newly released. It's a transcript from what was originally a closed hearing regarding basically Hippler telling the families, you need to stop talking to the press. And him and Steve going back and forth, and Steve kind of being like, well, I don't agree with that. And Hippler being like, I don't care if you agree with it, because this is how it's got to be. Because if you keep talking, it could affect our ability to seat a jury.
Which I don't understand how they didn't understand that. And to just throw out there, like, oh, funny that you're using term gags when our kids were like, where was he getting this?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to say this. He has attributed a lot of things to people that we've now learned. Like he said, the coroner told them that Kaylee was found slumped against the wall in the corner of the bed. And we know that's not true. I think what happened, and I think there are just so many creepy parasocial people desperate to insert themselves into this case. I think that they go to him and they're like, my friend is friends with the coroner and they told me, or my friend spoke to a grand jury member and they told me. And then when Steve retells it, he attributes it to people to give it credibility.
Yeah. I can see that. That makes sense to me. Which is fucking sad, Betty. But happened.
Accent sounds like New York. I'm from Boston. I think he was very mad because he wasn't able to know the extent of the injuries. I don't know. I mean, I think that there was a reason why they had to keep everything very quiet. There was a reason for it. Like, they're not just being dicks about it. There was a reason for why they had to keep things, quiet.
But that's how it is with all cases. Like, if we sit back and think, right?
Yep. Sorry.
They keep things close to their chest because they, certain things only certain people know. And that helps them with their cases. And I think people tend to forget that. Like, yes, we are the public. Yes, we're entitled to information, but we're not entitled to all the information. Like, we're just not entitled to that.
It's not even that. It's that a lot of that information, they need to be very careful about what gets out, because they don't want it. Remember, when they do voir dire and they have to interview potential jurors, they need to limit what these jurors potentially will hear.
That was like the survey that Anne had sent out.
Right.
For that one. Because there's certain information that can't be put out there.
Right. Because they don't want that don't want their ability to seat a jury to be compromised. And if the more information that gets out there, no matter how small of a detail that it is, that can affect their ability to seat a jury, because little nuggets of information get misconstrued. We see it happen here all the time. And they are trying to tap the screen, guys, please. So they're trying to find people who can be objective and as unbiased as possible.